academic support, and then we also kind of developed that program and piloted what academic support and social emotional learning was going to look like from the distance learning model. So I'm really excited to start as the Director of Student Affairs of this upcoming year and support your students.
I'm Anna Marie Mutchin, and I'm going to be the Special Programs Coordinator at BASIS Northeast. This is going to be my 4th year in education, more specifically working with the special education population. This past year, I was at the Chavano campus, where I worked with special ed 504 and ESL students, and I will be doing the same at the Northeast campus, and I look forward to working with everyone there.
Great. So we do want to mention about how basically what we are here for is to make sure that we are providing that support to students no matter what, because we have our mission is being able to provide that world-class instruction for the students, that they can be able to have that international challenge. We want to make sure that we have everything in place to be able to support them. So some of the things that we need to make sure that we have a lot of things. And so the first part of that is us being able to support them in their academics. And really where the heart of that for BASIS comes from our co-teaching model. I can speak personally to both of these roles because I was an LET, or a learning expert, my first 2 years, and then I became a subject expert then the next year and a half, I guess you could say. And so being able to be in those two roles, I can say how it really does help support the student first and foremost. Having those two teachers really helps with not just our student and teacher ratio in the classroom, but it also allows for a much more smoother transition for the students, and it also allows for, while one is doing whole class instruction, the other can pull a smaller group that may need, for example, some manipulative use in order to be able to best meet their needs of the way that they need to learn. So that is actually one of the biggest benefits of our co-teaching model. It is, I can say, what attracted me to this school in the first place as a parent. And then as a teacher, I just really wanted to work with people that wanted to work as hard as I did. And so coming here, we can have, these amazing subject experts that have masters or PhDs in a related field, and they are teaching, a classroom of 5th graders or 4th graders and teaching classics or history, or, really dorking out about math and science like Chris and myself, that we keep talking about that. But it's true. We truly are passionate about it. We love being in the classroom, and then having that engagement with the kids is just really essential, and it really helps us thrive. And having that other teacher in there is so amazing because you just feed off each other. The students learn in a better way. There's better chances to differentiate within the classroom, and that is truly where we can be able to pinpoint any type of needs or additional needs for our students. Now we have something that's very dear for BASIS, which is the CJ, the Communication Journal. And so this, this CJ is very important. It's a very important tool, but it's also the way that we scaffold in how the emphasis on student responsibility. That's really what we want. We want the students to be able to function on their own. By the time they get to the upper grades, they're going to be taking classes that are very, very difficult, and they need to be able to be prepared and be responsible and be organized with all of their work. And so this CJ in the primary grades really acts as a way for us to teach them how to begin those skills. In this CJ, we are able to, they not only write what is it that they're doing every day, their homework, their test dates that are coming up, but they're also responsible for delivering any type of maybe behavior notes that are coming home from a teacher, or actually being super proud to come home and say, I got an amazing note from my teacher, right? And so those kinds of things, it really helps us, both the learning expert and the subject expert, use that tool on a daily basis to make sure that we are communicating as much as we can with the parents, given that we know that communication is important for our parents. and making sure that they are always aware of grades that are coming home. And all of that is always recorded in that communication journal as well. Now, teachers have student hours, which is another component of additional support that we provide. Those student hours can be communicated through the CJ as well. That communication journal, teacher can, I remember doing this all the time to my students. If they needed some additional help, I would put on there, please attend my student hours, make sure that parents are able to see that. We do ask parents to look over CJs every night, and that is really helpful, because then we're all on the same page. That really helps in that way. So when we can ask for student hours, and that student hour is sort of the same idea as like office hours that a professor would have. We have an hour of direct instruction that we can have with students, or it can be done in a different way where kids can be in centers or can be different formats that will help them be able to work through that they need help with. If it is more on one-on-one, then the teacher can really be able to hone in on some of the foundational things that they need to work with that student, if that is the case, which will also help with any other types of interventions that may be needed for those students. Now that student hour is provided by every single teacher. All of our teachers will have student hours. And so that is an additional part of support that is there for students so that they can take advantage of it. We do want to make sure that the students take advantage of that, and that they're advocate for themselves, and they come to us and tell us, I can say this from experience. This year, I had a student that came to me the second day of school. She said, I know I have trouble in math, so I want to know, can I come to your student hours on a weekly basis? And I said, absolutely, yes, please come. And and she was there, and she always did. She was there every morning with me whenever I had student hours, and we worked hard, and that student showed a lot of progress and a lot of growth. But it was also her wanting to be able to do that for herself, which was amazing to be able to have that from a third grader at that point. Now, another thing that how we're able to identify which students may need a little bit more support. We do have some benchmarking that we have throughout the year, and so this is basically our progress monitoring to make sure that we are always making sure that we're looking at how everything is going, how their grades are progressing, and then also being able to see where the students are from the beginning of the year and what we may need to do depending on any type of interventions that may need to be targeted a little bit more clearly to them, as well as making sure that we have a set of goals that we can work towards for those students. And the LET is essential for this. They are the ones that are providing that additional pull-out program. They are able to pull out those students because they see them throughout the day. They know when they can pull them, they know when they can have a good 20-30 minute chunk that they can be able to provide that direct instruction to that student, whether it's in a small group or it's one-on-one for that intervention that is done. Now, I do want you to know that no matter what, if any student is ever identified with a need that surpasses what we already provide to all of our other students, then we will always communicate that first and foremost with our parents. You will always be aware of everything that's going on. You will know what the goals are. And then as well, it's very important not just to let you know what we're trying to do, but also how our progress is going. And so making sure that you are aware of how they're doing, whether we need to adjust something, whether we need to perhaps maybe even take them off from interventions, which is always a great thing that we want to do. And so those kinds of things will always be clearly communicated to parents to make sure that you feel that you are part of that education right along with us, because that's what teaming up. We pair up to make sure that we all work together, just like we pair up and we work together to make sure that our students have everything they need. We also are very excited to have support at home and make sure that you are helping us with that and making sure that you are just have the communication that you need in order to know what's going on with your students. And then in fourth and fifth grade, it looks a little bit different. I think Steph wanted to talk about that too. So go ahead.
Yeah, so as a dean, I worked with fourth graders for our academic support program, and our other dean worked with our fifth graders, and it does look different. They don't have that set model in the same way. They travel between classes independently, so their academic support has to look slightly different. They will work with a teacher during study hall if they decide they need an academic that Gabby just mentioned. They'll have weekly meetings where they'll check in and basically talk to their advisor and have like a little 5-10 minute conversation. That information will be communicated home to you via the CJ, and the student will be responsible for bringing that information to you. Fourth and fifth graders will of course have access to student hours. Again, they'll have that study hall throughout the day, so that they can have an extra 20 minutes to focus on their classwork, studying, organizing, as long as they are focused on academics during that time. We're also going to have an extra study hall in the morning where they can check in and have a quiet place to work instead of going to that early bird in the morning, which won't necessarily be super conducive to learning. They'll have the choice to go and work quietly or study for a test or prep for a project. So yeah, fourth and fifth grade, we are prepping them to have that same level of academic support in middle school. Sometimes as fourth graders, obviously we have to work on like communication. They don't have that let. And so I had a student who was like, well, I'm missing 5 math assignments. And I was like, yes, you are. You haven't done your homework this week. And he's like, well, it's too late for that. And I said, oh, no, it's not. So we went and talked to the math teacher, and I stood in the doorway, and the math teacher knew exactly what was happening. I fed him the lines, and he went and said verbatim what I said. And sure enough, he was able to turn in those assignments for late credit, because ultimately we wanted that student to, one, be able to communicate with this teacher. That's a huge skill on accountability for themselves that they need to start learning as early as possible and in a guided fashion. Two, the math teacher needed him to do those 5 lessons. Like there's no way you can miss a week of math and be fine. And then 3, he is learning a little bit of a lesson because there was that late credit, right? And so from then on, we never had 5 more missing assignments because there was a lot more work involved for a lot less payoff in the grade book. So it's not just about helping them in academics. Sometimes it's a lot about helping them build those skills. Like communicating with adults is really hard for kids sometimes. Some of them are great at it. I was a kid who needed so much guidance and help. I would write a script in middle school before I would go talk to a teacher. We're starting that in 4th and 5th grade. Sometimes, their academics are generally like really good, but their organization is a hot mess. And so, you are working with them at home diligently as a parent in the folder, and whatever happens, they go to history class, that assignment isn't there anymore, and so it may have gotten lost in the locker, or maybe it fell out of an unzipped binder between classes and it's in the hallway somewhere. But we have to work on organization and planning too. Kids don't just, people don't just come with those skills. So that's definitely part of academic support as well. So it might be, an academic need, or it could also be organization, planning, time management, communication, that sort of thing. Did I miss anything, I think, with our academic support?
No, that's
awesome.
That's basically it. Yeah, just one of the main things is that it may look different throughout the grades. It looks very different, obviously, in kindergarten and in the lower grades. And then in 4th and 5th grade, it will look different. But no matter what we're trying to do is making sure that we support the student where they need to be supported and how they need to be supported, and making sure that that is always clearly communicated to our parents. That's the main thing. And then we have obviously our special programs that are also designed to help our students. So I'll let you go ahead and go do that.
So I'm going to briefly discuss a bit about each of the special programs that we manage at BASIS. The first one is special education. So with SPED, that is more of our students that require really individualized plan that is different from the general education population. And so they might require, slight altering to assignments, or they might need additional resource time, which is a pull out where we work on those skills that they might be behind in, so we can really bridge gaps. So the kids that are identified as SPED, they are more likely to just have an individual plan that's specific to that child. And then we also serve our 504 students. So 504 plans are available to any student at all who has any kind of disability that impacts their life. So it can be a food allergy, it can be a emotional behavioral need, or it can even be, you know, an academic deficient area. So whatever that student is struggling in, they're able to have a 504 plan. And what the 504 plan does is just provide them access to the curriculum. So it's a little different from SPED in that they're not going to receive any kind of different specialized work, but they will be provided accommodations in the classroom. So for instance, if a kid has ADHD and they really struggle with those organizational skills, then we can maybe help them with extra reminders, or we can provide them with an additional day to do their work. It would just vary on that kid's need, but we would address it to make sure that they're receiving the access to the curriculum that they need. Our third program that we have is ESL, which is for our English language learners. And so when students first enter a U.S. school, they are required to be tested on their English proficiency. If they score below fluent on that exam, then they are eligible to participate in our ESL program. And so our ESL program does not change the curriculum that the students get. They're still going to have the exact same work that their other classmates have. It doesn't hinder them in any way at all, but it does provide additional support. So they might have additional accommodations to help with that language barrier. They will also have an opportunity that's kind of unique to BASIS, which is we have an ESL library. So they have the opportunity to come and check out books from our ESL program each week. And then in addition to that, the ESL program also provides yearly testing. So it will allow parents and the student to see where their English proficiency level is. And eventually, once they score high enough in all areas, they would be able to test out of the program. We also have a process that's called RTI. And so RTI is very closely aligned with our progress monitoring. So if we have a general education student that we see is struggling and they're going through academic support and it's not providing enough help, then we put them through this process that has different tier levels. And so what we do is we'll provide research-based interventions and we'll monitor how those are working. We'll communicate with parents and the student and teachers to see ways we can better support this student. And through the RTI process is how we will identify, if need be, any students that are special education or just students that needed a little extra support than everyone else is provided.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna Marie. So with all of the academic support that we have, we also understand that we need to support the student as a whole. And so a big piece of my role is implementing our social emotional curriculum, and the teachers will be working with your students. And again, we use a school-wide curriculum called Second Step. And what this entails is teachers will teach the second step lesson once a week in their classroom. And in kindergarten, for example, they will start off with learning how to be a student, learning how to listen, learning how to focus. They're coming from different backgrounds. They might have been in a preschool, they might have been in more of a daycare, they might have been at home. And so they're going to come in and learn what being a student really looks like, because that is a skill in itself for a 4 or a 5-year-old. And then from there, they're going to start to learn how to use self-talk, for example. Self-talk is what you tell yourself in your head. You can tell yourself really good things. You can tell yourself really negative things. And so we use that idea of self-talk all the way through the Second Step program through 5th grade at our campus. And so those concepts will just develop as they mature and grow. They'll learn about how to identify a feeling. They'll learn about feelings management. What does anger feel like in my head? What does it feel like in my body? the goal is to help them become more aware of how their feelings feel in their body so that they can make better choices when they know that they're upset or frustrated or stressed out or worried, or maybe they're just really, really happy. They'll learn that one too. They also start to learn empathy at this age, and empathy is such a hard concept to teach a 5-year-old. Sometimes it's hard to teach adults, but they will start to learn how to identify emotions on other people and say, oh, you look sad and alone on the playground. Why don't you come and play with me too? So these are, again, some concepts that they'll learn. It develops further into fair play. And again, the topics will grow with the students. They are also going to receive bullying education too through this program, what it is, what it isn't, and how to report it and how to discuss it with adults as well. So we, again, are focused on not only supporting their academics, but also supporting who they are as people. Let's say your kiddo comes in and they lost their homework and they are just having a meltdown.
Use it.
Yeah, because I would, I would have, and no one taught me how to handle that in first grade. I might have been crying in the classroom. Well, if something like that does happen, the teacher can use the 2-teacher model to, have one teacher pull the kiddo out and talk to them and kind of help reassure them using this second step language that we are providing for them. Or if they're in a 4th or 5th grade class and they have the same, maybe they're really upset, something like that, they can go into my office that I'll be sharing with Miss Kimball. And we're going to have a cozy corner there where they can sit and help identify how they're feeling when they come in. They'll sit and they'll choose how they want to take their break. And then we will talk about how that feeling impacts them, and then we'll get them back into class. So with this model, we may not have a designated counselor, but we have broken up this role into so many different pieces that each of us gets to specialize in the piece that we are the most passionate about. So Gabby's really going to focus on, the progress monitoring, the interventions, helping identify what students need that support, along with Anna Marie, and then I'll be helping implement that within the school. We also, when we grow, we'll have additional support in the student affairs team and in the director of academic programs team as well. So I'm really excited to continue to grow our campus with you guys. And I think if we're good, we're opening to questions.
Yes.
How do you guys feel? Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So at this time, if you do have questions, please go ahead and enter those in the chat box. We're happy to answer any and all questions. Depending on the question, I'll throw it to whoever it goes to. But to start with, so one of the questions that I had for you all is, as we're planning for this coming school year, our students haven't been in a school for 6 months or 5 months. So what are some things that you all and we all are working on to kind of plan for that support when those students do come into our building, and specifically the students who do choose to come to the bricks and mortar part of our education? What are some of the things during the first month of school to make sure that we're meeting those needs? Because it's just going to be different this year.
Absolutely. I think, I can say that I have 2 kids at home, and they have been at home since March, and they are missing school. And a lot of that is the social interaction, but then it's just having their teachers right there with them. We sometimes think that the student is going to learn no matter what, but our teachers really are extremely important. And so making sure that when they come in, that they know that relationship is still really important for us to be able to build with them is going to be really crucial, I feel, in the beginning, just because they have been out of school for so long. And so being able to build that relationship with the student is going to be really important. And then make sure that we identify where they are. Right? We want to make sure that we meet them where they are at that point, and then make sure that we build them up to make sure that they get to where they should be. We definitely want to make sure that we identify that right away, because it's just going to be able to help us be able to support them a lot better. And so making sure that we identify that's going to be a really important piece. The 2-teacher model works great with that too, just because we have the learning expert teacher that is with them at all times, and they can see some of the things, especially as they move around and as they're going through different classrooms. They can see some of the strengths that can help us be able to build some of those deficiencies that they may have. And I mean, I think they're going to need a lot of emotional support.
Yeah. No, we're definitely
Obviously.
prepared. We're going to start that second step curriculum pretty quickly. We know this is a new campus with new BASIS students, so procedures and policies are going to have to be very well known. We're going to have to practice those the first week of school. Okay, I might know where recess is after the first day, but how do I get there? What are the expectations in the hallway? I think we'll be having a lot of conversations and resetting expectations during things like lunches and recesses, just so they know, again, it's been 6 months since they've been in school in a cafeteria. They're going to be so excited. But if you give kiddos that structure and the reminders of expectations pretty consistently, they'll follow through. We just have to make sure, and we are, that we continue to make all of that information known and make sure that our teachers are implementing that same type of policies and procedures in their classroom.
And then we're trying to make sure that we are keeping our students safe and our teachers safe. Obviously, depending on what precautions we need to take, we will always be able to follow that, and you will always be aware of those policies as well.
So as we've sent out to parents, things like exactly what does recess, exactly what does lunch look like at the beginning of the school year hasn't been decided yet, kind of as we are really looking specifically at each campus's needs, state and county stuff. But on a general theme, if things were purely normal, one of our parents is wondering, can you guys talk a little bit about PE and recess and how that works at BASIS? They know that in the later years, it turns to purely elective, but what does that look like in the younger grades? So Gabby, if you want to handle PE from a schedule standpoint, and then Stephanie, what does recess look like for students?
Sure. So PE students have their PE period every day, and which is great for them to be able to have that mobility. But not just that. I actually remember going into PE periods all the time with my classes as an SET, and that was just one of the most fun parts of their day, right? The kids love going to PE. They love being able to interact with the coaches. Not only are they learning about there is a curriculum that goes along with it, and they are learning, many different things about exercise and like proper healthy eating habits and, heart rate and all sorts of things that they do have to learn and follow. But they have fun. They build a sense of community with their own element. Our teachers are always welcome to go in and have fun with them, and that is always extremely fun. My first year as an LET, I went in every Friday to play dodgeball with my students, and that was and those students still remember it to this day. I get messages from them, or I would see them in the hallways, and they'd be like, remember that time I got you, Miss Kimball? And I was like, yes, I do remember that. Of course, all of that, it really helps build that relationship with them. And so just being able to have it every day it's great. As they go into, the older grades, obviously, like Chris mentioned, there's a lot of elective parts of that, but just having that, knowing that you're going to PE every day is such a great thing for my kids. My kids love it. They always say that. It's their favorite.
And then recess, the younger grades will have multiples a day. They'll also have 3. And then they'll also have time, the older grades will have time in the morning to go out and play as well. And then they'll have their recess too. The 1st to 5th, they have their older recess playground. And then the kinders have their own playground. They're pretty self-contained. I don't know if you've ever been on a recess playground, with especially the kinder playground. It's just a place of pure joy and excitement. And they've been in the room for a couple of hours, and then they get that time of freedom. And it's so fun because it is unstructured playtime, and that can prove to be a challenge. There's a lot to work out when you have like 15, 20 minutes to do whatever you want outside. So a lot of it is working through, with kinder playground, it might be working through how to play appropriately, how to use the equipment appropriately, and there's a reason why there are rules on how we use the equipment. And then, 5th graders, I know we had a group of 5th graders come to us because there were only 2 basketballs out there. So myself and our DSA and medical center, we sat there and just game planned with this group of kiddos of how they were going to make how they were going to share their 2 basketballs. And so what they ended up doing was they donated a basketball, and then we challenged them to go in and ask if they could use their basketball to play with them or to play alongside the other kiddos. And it ended up being a great resolution among these groups of students, and more friends were made. So yeah, recess is definitely super important. We love recess. And then Kinder also has their movement classes, and that will give them the chance to, it's like their PE, but they're learning how to move their bodies, how their body fits or doesn't fit into certain areas, how they can run in zigzags or run straight. So it's just, again, a really cool, a really big piece of our day at BASIS for sure is recess, PE, movement.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, kindergarten students have that 30-minute movement class every day. Grades 1 through 3 have PE every day for 40 minutes as well. In grade 4, they have PE for 4 days a week for 50 minutes. And then in grades 5 and 6, they have it 3 days a week. And I'm purposely mentioning 6th grade because even though we are opening as a K through 5 school, I just want to make sure everyone on the call knows that we are expanding to be a full K through 12 campus. At our Northeast site. So we are going to be building a second building during year 2 to open during year 3. And so we will eventually be serving the full K-12 experience for your students. So any student who starts at us in any grade level will have the opportunity to graduate from our campus as well. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. And then those recesses get scaffolded, and lunch starts to look different as students get older too. So they get to start to choose how much time are they spending in the cafeteria and how much time are they spending outside. And I can promise you that 7th graders spend the vast majority of their time outside and much less time eating. But that starts to look different, and it's one of those things that we scaffold and plan with the kids. The next question, I think, goes straight to Anna Marie. And so wondering specifically, we know that the first day of school is August 17th. At what point in time will parents and students start meeting regarding 504 plans, IEP plans, things like that?
So as students enroll in the campus, we start receiving copies of their plans. If the parent notifies us of a previous school they had a plan at, we can contact the school and I'll get the plan, or the parent will actually bring the plan with them when they enroll the student, so we have them that way. So as we're getting them over the summer and at the start of the school year, I'll be working with the teachers to get the copies of those plans reviewed and passed out. That way, starting day 1, those students will start with their accommodations and plans in place. As far as the meetings go, so for special education, within the first 10 days of school, we will have what's called a transfer meeting. And so we'll review your plan that you bring with us, and then we will kind of temporarily implement the plan as is for 30 days. And then we will have the official, what's called a placement ARD. And so then we will officially hold the ARD for the year and change the plan to match the basis school day. 504 plans. So those they don't have the formal timeline that an IEP has. So as we get them in, then we just contact the parent to hold the meeting at that time. And then as far as the ESL program goes, there is what's called a beginning of year LPAC meeting. So any students that are eligible for the program, they will be a part of that meeting where we will either admit them to the ESL program or say they're fluent in English or a parent denial. Within the first few weeks of school, depending on how many ESL students there are, I will be calling them in for testing. So I'll be testing them if I haven't done it over the summer, and then we would proceed from there.
Fantastic, thank you. I think the big takeaway there is that on day 1, all of those accommodations, modifications for 504s and IEPs are in place because we really are committed to meeting the needs of the students. So we've got a question saying, I'm glad that, we're a great choice for a school. Would the school consider teaching remotely in the current situation? And would the school consider the parent's choice for the kid to be remote or taught physically in the school? So I'm going to jump in and answer that one directly. So last night we did, there was a post that went out and I'm happy to email it if anyone wants to email me. I'll put my email address in the chat box as well. It's chris.ferguson@basised.com. I'm happy to send out the details of that to anyone who hasn't gotten that. Basically, if you've already applied to a school, you've already gotten it, and anyone who does apply will get it as soon as they apply. It does outline our plan for the coming school year, and that plan really is focusing in on parent choice. We know a lot of parents want and need their children to be able to come back to school. And those students who do come back to school will get as close to a normal BASIS school as we can get as far as the education goes. But we also know that there are some parents who that choice isn't possible or isn't the right choice for the family at this time. And so our plan is for them to be able to have that option for an online system. The students would be learning the same BASIS curriculum. We've sourced throughout our network of 29 schools teachers who were rock stars on the distance learning and amping that up. So the students who do choose the distance learning option will be receiving from day one a full BASIS education taught by teachers who really have a specialty now in that online access. And so it will be on a full BASIS education though. So grades, the homework, it's all there. So, but we are committed to that. Those details, it's laid out pretty thoroughly with what we're able to know right now. And then that is, of course, within some guidelines about whether or not TEA, we are a public school. We need to make sure the TEA, that we are funded and all of that. And so going through there. But all of those details are on there. As far as those specifics, I'm happy to send that out to anyone. And then, please reach out to me if you have any specific questions about that and everything. We're happy to answer them. There's a lot of details in there. I could talk for 20 minutes about it, and I don't want to overwhelm that. So the next question is, how different or similar will the new campus teachers, facilities, curriculum be when compared to other BASIS schools in San Antonio? So I think all of us will probably want to jump in on this one. We actually represent, at our campus, I believe we represent 7 or 8 different BASIS schools worked at. Stephanie Cavan having worked at all of them. But what is going to look the same? What's going to look different? So I think we're all going to jump in with slightly similar and slightly different things.
You can start.
Oh, our building is amazing. It's so beautiful. Windows are everywhere. Like, I'm so excited. I just got a tour of it myself this past week, and it is a beautiful, beautiful campus. And I'm just really excited about being able to work there, and I'm really excited that your kids will be going to school there. As far as my piece, the social emotional curriculum and the academic support piece, second step curriculum is what is used in BASIS primary schools. They use it at North Central, they use it at Medical, and so that will be the same over at Northeast. The reason that program is chosen is because there's a lot of third-party testing that has been done on it, and they do actually see results with this particular program. And it really does meet the needs of our students and of our teachers of creating that common language. As far as academic support goes, having worked as a teacher at North Central when it was a middle high, and then at Chavano, I actually requested to take on academic support students. It wasn't necessarily required, and I would go and seek them out and find them and be like, this kid looks a little disorganized, can I? And they'd be like, yeah, sure, take him. That's fine. And so we're implementing a very similar structure here too. Obviously, nobody is always the same, but the idea and the foundation is all there. As far as them like getting those weekly meetings, the parent communication piece, getting those pullouts and interventions, it's all the same. And we are constantly working to improve and do better to continue to meet the needs of our students as those shift. Gabby, do you want to go ahead and jump in there?
Well, absolutely. We have, and all those things, like Stephanie said, obviously, yes, there's a lot of things that are the same. Our building is very different in the sense that it doesn't look like we are moving into a business, into a building that was already existing. So it does look a little different, but I think that's what excites us the most, I feel, about it. We do want to make sure that, if we know that we are going to have students that are going to be transferring from North Central or maybe from Medical Center and coming to our Northeast campus because it's just more convenient for you, maybe cutting down your travel time by half or more. And so definitely we want to make sure that the students still feel like it is still the same sense of, community, the same sense of knowing that their teachers truly care about them. We have a lot of transfer teachers coming into Northeast. We have a chunk from Medical Center and a chunk coming from North Central, myself included. And so we have a lot of those, already teachers that are veterans that are going to help us be able to build that culture with our new teachers and be able to really guide them and make sure that they help be able to put our BASIS way, right? Make sure that the BASIS way is done correctly and that the students feel welcome and feel like they're just going to another one of our BASIS schools. We do want to say, obviously we want to do what's best for our students and we want to be number one. That is definitely something that I think we will say for sure. But all of those things will be the same. We have amazing rock star teachers that want to be there and want to work as hard as everyone else that is in that campus. And so that's truly what puts, every single campus where we are. And so we're excited that we get to have that as well.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, there's a lot of internal structures in place to make sure that the BASIS network, is getting the same curriculum at these different schools. I was what we call a subject advisor, so I created 7th grade curriculum for the state of Texas. So I made sure it met the BASIS needs of the curriculum, and also the TEKS were met too. So we are all using the same framework of a curriculum, and then the teachers, those subject experts, get to go in and teach it in the best way possible. They get to add on and embellish it as they'd like, but that same framework is there. They are always meeting the TEKS as required by the state of Texas. So I wanted to make sure we touched on that too.
On the special programs side, so we actually meet as a district or San Antonio area every month. So the SPED 504 coordinators and then the ESL coordinators, we meet and we collaborate. We attend similar trainings, and then we also make sure that we're distributing the same trainings to all of our staff every month regarding the programs. So across all our campuses, we try to have the same high quality BASIS standards for those students with the special needs.
And curriculum-wise, actually, one thing that is different, we do not have that Mandarin piece, for example, at our campus. That is probably what sets us apart, where we will be having our science literacy program for our grades. And that's really where, BASIS quickly, if they notice that if there is a need for something, then we pivot very quickly. And so that's something that it is going to be done with our school, and we're going to be able to provide that science literacy portion to our students, which is so important. I know when Stephanie and I talked about this, she was so excited about the fact that students get to not only learn, be able to do more hands-on activities with science, but also just learn that literacy portion of it and be able to talk about it and write about it, which is a huge piece that then will just help them later on, even when they go to 4th grade and writing. And if you want to add to that.
Oh, yeah, I was a history teacher, and I was so excited about this course because students will get exposed to how to write academically from a very early age. Because I was taking 7th graders and I was trying to prep them to take AP history classes and take those exams, which are very heavy in writing, in middle school and high school, so in their 8th grade and up. And it was tough because that framework is different if you don't have this type of academic language already in your in your back pocket. So I'm so excited that they will get this exposure to how to write academically. If it's not for history, it's going to be fantastic because as a teacher, I can take that style of writing and make it what I need for them to be great writers of history. Because by the time they're taking those APs, there are 3 different types of essays that they are taking alongside the multiple choice. And our kiddos are just going to be that much more prepared for that academic language that they'll need to be able to use in their middle and high school program.
Fantastic. I think you all covered most of basically everything I would have said there too. Yeah, there's a great deal of fidelity between campuses. I've worked at schools in Arizona, schools here in Texas, one of our private schools in Virginia, and the curriculum at all of those was the same. It really was. It was the same, and it's the same culture and feel within a BASIS school where hard work is celebrated, where it's valued, where that drive to work hard for whatever level of success is that student's level of success is celebrated, and it's celebrated amongst the students too. And I think that's something very special. To me, one of the big differences facilities wise is with our campus as opposed to the other San Antonio campuses in particular is actually two things. One, our parking lot is huge, which is fantastic for pickup and drop off. That will just make everybody's lives, I can promise you it won't go perfect on the first day, but it will make everyone's lives much easier. I think all of us can share that as anyone who's dropped students off at schools. It's always a little bit of a hassle, but that's going to make a big difference. And then the other big difference is that our campus is going to be a full K through 12 campus. But with two separate buildings. So we still have a primary school and then a middle and upper school, but that we will have that separate experience. The other two schools that I was a director at, we were K-12 schools. Xavier, you're on film. And so that's an opportunity to really go through that. So the next question that we have, I see that we have somebody who raised their hand to ask a question. Trying to see who that was because I actually haven't seen that feature used before.
Love that feature.
Let me see here. It's signed in as Jeremiah Leva, so I'm not sure who that is, but I know it's a student signed in. Go ahead if you want to unmute yourself to ask your question, or you can feel free to type that in the chat box. All right, I'm not sure if it's just not able to unmute, but if you want to type that in, feel free. I'll move on to the next question, but feel free to jump in and unmute yourself when you get a chance to. So there's a couple of questions going back to 504s and IEPs. So the first question is, I'm not sure if my child's previous school will supply a copy of our 504 plan. How do I verify that or submit it myself?
So if you have a copy of the plan at home from your most recent meeting, then you can just submit that. Otherwise, if you provide me with the school's name of where your child attended, then I'm able to request it through our online system as well.
Fantastic. And I'll put Anna Marie's email address in the chat box right now as well. And then also related to that, I think it's just a clarification on the meeting question earlier. Is there a way that an appointment can be made prior to school to make sure to go over any developments that have been made over the last 5 or 6 months since this year 504 plan?
Yes, the same. It'll be the same. So if you just shoot me an email and Chris will type it into the box, then I'm able to schedule a time with you to meet and discuss any questions or review anything on the plan that you'd like to before school starts.
She says thank you. What sort of field trips and or community involvement do you guys do? Touring different factories or going to different places. Do you all do things like that? Do you go to zoos, museums, etc.?
Yes, it really depends on the grade. We do want to make sure that the teachers feel that they have that autonomy to choose something that will best fit their needs depending on the grade. But yes, absolutely. Field trips, our grades will be taking 2 field trips for the year. This is all assuming we'll all have a normal year. And that's how we're planning to speak, as if it is all normal. And the students will have those opportunities to go to field trips and like the zoo, things like that, I know that those are things that we have planned out. We also have a lot of community events that we want to be able to have our parents come into our school. That's one of the things that we really want to make sure that we focus on, because on a normal basis, you don't get to be in there all the time. And so being able to just come in and see the work that your children are making or creating in the classrooms, and be able to just any chance we get to be able to get you to come in to be able to see the wonderful things that our teachers are doing, that's definitely our goal. We want to make sure we do that. So we have many different things like multicultural events that we'll have. We are planning to have obviously our grading period celebrations as well. And I'm trying to think of others that can pop into my head right now.
Yeah, so we also have Project Week at the end of the year. Project Week is a time where teachers will set up individual projects. They might, I know that there was one at Medical Center recently where they went and hiked a different trail every single day, obviously with parent permission. But really the teachers get to come up with and develop a project that they want to work on with the kids for the entire week. It can be academically related. So for example, I know a history teacher at Chavano would teach battle history of the Civil War, which was fantastic. And he had a group of kiddos who just wanted to talk about Civil War battles for 5 days straight. And that's what they did. And they loved it. And I would check in with them later and they'd be like, oh, Miss Cavan, like I learned so many things that I didn't know before. I know a friend of mine teaches like a cross stitching project week. So he will be in there with a quiet group of kiddos and they'll be cross stitching. There's been crocheting, there's a PE. The teachers really get to highlight their expertise that may or may not be related to their subject, and the kiddos get exposed to that other type of activity for the week. And so it's just a really fun and exciting way to end that last week of school for our kiddos.
Fantastic. Trips out are an opportunity for the students to really be able to engage in a different way, to interact with what are they learning. So all of our field trips really do have a pointed purpose, whether that's a pure academic purpose or whether that purpose is community building and team building. We are committed to making sure that we get out there. And again, everything we're talking about today, we're really talking about it in the lens of in as normal environment as possible. Specific things as far as COVID-19 and what does the fall look like. There are going to be some adjustments to that. So, are we going to be going out on field trips in the first couple of months of school? No. I can promise you until we kind of see where the landscape lasts. But we do plan on going out on those things, and how can we manage that to be able to go out and do those things in a way that makes sense. And if that first field trip might be to something like a park, and we're going to do that as part of a biology trip in order to really look at some of the different plants that are available in different parks around town. It's a great field trip, educational related. It's also a chance to get out and do that. So that looks different for everything. It's hard because we want to talk about normal life, but then we also have to acknowledge the fall's not going to be exactly normal. But we want to talk about that because that is the experience you're signing up for as a whole too, and we want to acknowledge that. So we've got a couple minutes left, so if you all have any other questions, please by all means put them in the chat box. We'd be happy to answer them. We do have a question about, we've heard of a forum for parents to connect. Can we have information about that? I look forward to collaboration. So we don't have a specific BASIS forum that is sponsored or tied togetir with the school. The word is escaping my brain that I'm looking for there, but we don't have a specific one that is sponsored by us. Our boosters program oftentimes does set up their own communication site where they can, for people to be able to collaborate, whether that is for things like carpooling or just, hey, my 5-year-old is having a really tough time with giving up their toys or something, or is now the right time to give my kid a cell phone? I know they're 8, and like a lot of kids did. Like, should I? For bouncing things off of parents. So oftentimes our boosters will set up things like that. We try and partner with parents to facilitate those conversations as well. I know one group, Alamo City Moms, and then also San Antonio Charter Moms. Don't worry, dads are invited to both of those too. It's just the names. Those can both be found online. They perhaps could put you in touch, especially if you're just looking for, parents to bounce different ideas off of and things like that. We have one more question that came in. Oh, that's a great question because a number of people have moved. So asking they have moved, what do we need to make sure in order to make sure that their address is up to date? Send me an email. And then I'll put you in touch with our registrar as well. But if you send me an email, you can also go into your original application. You should be able to log into that, to your application, and you can update the address, or if you need to add an email or something like that. If you added an additional email, you can go in there and update that information. That will very shortly, in the next couple of weeks, be transferring over to our student information system, which is PowerSchool. And you sent the email, so perfect. I don't see any other questions. I'm sorry if I missed one. Any closing thoughts from you all?
Just want to thank you for joining us today from the comfort of your homes or wherever you may be. Thank you for taking time to be here with us and just learn a little bit more about things that we truly are passionate about. And just, the bottom line is that no matter how we do it or how it's going to be done or how it's going to look, it is definitely going to be done if the student needs some academic support. And that is going to be we need to make sure to do that, to make sure that we have that foundation for those students to be successful, not just in BASIS, but the rest of their lives. That's really what we want to do. So just thank you for me. Thank you. You guys can say thank you yourself. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to the new school year.
Yeah.
Soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Have a